Here we are, live again. The Ashley Ross podcast slash show. I'm today's co-host, Michael Eric Dyson, waiting to be joined by the great Ashley Ross so that we can have a wonderful conversation about The Last Dance. I hope y'all been watching it. Pretty extraordinary documentary series on arguably the greatest athlete of the 20th century. I mean, he's in that argument, right, with Muhammad Ali, with Babe Ruth, with Willie Mays, Wayne Gretzky, Hank Aaron, and the like. But it's in a documentary, and we're waiting now for the great Ashley Ross to come on to the show, since it's her show. I'm just hoping you're hanging
Hi.
out. There she is.
Hopefully we got all of our technical difficulties out the way.
I know. Okay. We want a baby face, not Teddy Riley.
Exactly. We're trying to be face out here.
Jam. Oh, jam. No.
Did you see before we get into Michael, did you see their verses, like when it actually went through?
Oh, yeah, I did. I mean, I was
Oh my gosh,
that.
I was jamming. I was like, this is
Let me
so
tell you
cool.
what. It was dope, but I'm old, man. So I'm for, people be dogging the boomers. Me and Face about the same age. I love to see that soon as I get home. Tell them, Face, give them some old school loving up in here. I might release a rap song called Old Man Lovin'. I don't know.
Old Man Lovin'. You know what? Listen, everybody these days is a rapper, so you might as well put your hat in the ring for it.
Yeah, I better spare y'all that. But anyway, it's good to have the great Ashley Ross on. I'm on your show. This is your show.
Thank you. I am honored to be with the great Michael Eric Dyson. So thank you for taking the time.
No, not at all. I mean, I've been watching that Last Dance. I'm telling you.
I mean, it feels like the playoffs. Like I'm like getting like, I feel like the Super Bowl's next week. And I'm like, what are we going to do in the off season? I'm like, we need more.
I know. I mean, it makes me sad to know that next week is the last week.
It's the Last Dance.
It's the Last Dance of the Last Dance. You know what? We'll have to just watch the series over again.
Yes. It's one of those series that is so good that you can watch again. I mean, I think last night by far was the most emotional episodes.
My God.
Unpacking the relationship that he had. And I always knew that Jordan and his dad had a close bond. But when you really, I think people don't realize, like, most successful people, when they get to that point, even if they're a superstar, they have a strong backbone, a strong core that's able to kind of keep them grounded and keep them to getting to that level. So it's like you reach this level of success with this person next to you. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, how do I navigate now? Because the map and the compass that you had prior to this is no longer there. So it was really interesting to see just how much, and I think it's interesting too, just even men in general, of when, men experience loss and grieving and how they're expected to kind of keep it together and push on. And
that's right.
It was really interesting to kind of unpack that yesterday.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I lived through that, and I know Jordan. So let me put my cards on the table. I do know him, an incredible human being, and his father, as you said, was more than his father, his friend, his sidekick,
confidant.
His buddy. That infamous trip from New York to New Jersey to play in the casino with his daddy. His daddy, the one to stand up and to defend him in public, to kind of demystify the shroud of mystery that had surrounded his son and that was now beginning to attack him with the broader public, and to defend him, and through an act of wanton violence,
I know,
to lose your father, and then in part to be blamed somehow,
that's
innuendo for his death. I mean, that was horrible.
I know. I mean, the thing is, sorry, we have like a helicopter flying over, but I think what was so interesting is, you got to think about that too, is like any losing a loved one is hard enough for anybody, right? No matter where you are in life, that's hard enough. And then, you know, just because of the way the media was at that time, and always like, you know, if you weren't giving too much, they were filling in the blanks, and just associating somehow his dad's gruesome death associated with the gambling. I mean, that just, I think what I really have taken away from watching this documentary is, I think people look at like stars and superstars, and I think there's not as much glamour as there once was, just because of Instagram, and we kind of see the behind the scenes of people's lives. But I mean, the amount of constant pressure to not only perform at your craft at a high level, but just navigating. Like, you can't even go outside without being bombarded. And then the one day you don't give a kid an autograph, you're a horrible person. So it's this level of maintaining that he had to do for so long. You could tell that by the time he had won the third championship, he was burnt out. Like, he couldn't give any more in the way that he had been giving. And that's why he kind of had to pivot to the baseball. And it just, and even baseball, it's like, you see his will to win, that mentality. I'm going to be the best. You know, he was talking about the, you know, I think the cuts on his hands. And, you know, it's so rare that you find people like that are just willing to attack life. You know, I think that sometimes people go very passively through life and hope they luck up on something. He's like, no, I'm attacking life.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. And to think about the fact, to go back to your point about, you know, Kobe Bryant was really the entree into the social media era. Of course, LeBron James has amped it up to another level because the media itself is amped up to another level. Jordan didn't seek to expose himself on his Instagram. He didn't seek to tweet people and to use social media to articulate his persona or to somehow communicate his philosophy or characterize his goings on in the world. So in one sense, I think contemporary athletes have, you know, beyond the media, the ability to shape perception, which is great in one sense, because you can sidetrack the idiocy, the lunacy of others who try to characterize you. But on the other hand, you know, when you think about the kind of constant 24-hour, you know, 7 days a week, intense scrutiny of these athletes and the exposure of themselves, I think it's a give and take. But your point about Jordan's desire to attack life, I'm going to retire from one, I'm going to go to the other. And we saw last night the underlying psychological motivation for him to embrace baseball, because, look, he's grieving the trauma of the loss of his father, connected to his supposed behavior and character, then shifts him into a more intimate embrace of the ideals that his father had for him and the idea of him playing baseball. So he seeks it as a kind of level of comfort and challenge. Can I start at the bottom? Like Drake said, started at the bottom.
Now I'm here.
So he starts at the bottom, and Terry Francona comes on and says, look, I was his manager. The guy's hitting 200, 202. He would have made it to the big leagues. Can you imagine? I mean, the Neon Deion Sanders would have been only two-sport, or Bo Jackson. This guy, Michael Jackson, might have done something in baseball. It is pretty scary, although I don't think he would have tyrannically assaulted his teammates.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean,
we're going to get into that, too.
You talking about emotional, but I know we're going to jump there. But the crying at the end
his body convulsed. I mean, just the release of emotion. And I think we've all kind of had, not to that degree, but moments in our life where you finally make it to the mountaintop, ideally, and you're just like, I can breathe now. You know, it's like this weight off my back.
Today. I'm on Ashley Ross. Oh my God. I'm just breathing, man. I've made it.
No, I made it today. I'm like, you know, it's funny because, you know, I interview different people. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is so big. Oh my gosh, I love Michael. I was like, Michael, I said, Michael is known out here in these streets. I mean, I knew you were, but especially with the younger people, I was like, this is good. This is good.
Yeah, I love the young folk. I love what you're doing. I love your intelligence, your scrutiny of the sport. I love your holistic approach where you bring the entire range of your intelligence to bear upon this, and the kind of sense of fun. So that's beautiful. But looking at Jordan, I mean, seeing, and I tell you, for me last night, when Jordan had feared that, okay, people are going to see I'm an a-hole.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a useful one at the very least, and that's the kind of stony will and
Yes.
monomaniacal, concentration on your desire. It's one thing. I will win. Everything
Mm-hmm.
falls from that. The endorsement, the cultural iconic status, as you talked about, all of that flows from one single thing. I am the
Yes.
absolute best at what I do, and nobody, I mean nobody, will beat me. That is pretty remarkable.
I no, and what I think, and I've said this before too, what I feel is lacking from not just basketball today, but
Right.
I feel like most crafts in general. I feel that a lot of people can lose sight, especially with social media and followers. And if you start to get known, you're going to get certain contracts. And then I feel like people, especially athletes sometimes, they can lose sight of the reason why all this trickle down effect is happening is because the root of this is your talent. And if you
That's
don't
right.
keep your talent in check, you're going to lose everything else. And we've seen
Great
a lot of
point.
people that are very talented that have gotten chance after chance after chance because they're talented.
Right.
And somebody that's less talented, it's like, no, I'm not dealing with that. So
That's true.
I,
That's
I,
true on a
I
lot
think
of levels. Yeah.
so with Jordan, I think you have to be kind of cut from a certain cloth to truly understand that not everything is going to be likable. And the thing that I feel from Jordan, because I feel this in my own life at times, is I don't think that he necessarily loved being that person. I think he knew that he had to be that person to garner those type of results. Anybody that's
Right.
successful, there's a level of, if we're being honest, there's a level of kind of sacrifice and a bit of a sadness that you go through because you can't do all the things that you used to do. You can't associate with all the people that you once did. There's a level of elevation that's required to where you cannot be the you that you were to get to the you that you're going to be. And so
Yeah.
I think with Jordan, with him realizing that in order for us to get to this level, for him, he could gear himself up. He would literally make stuff up to get himself going.
Right.
But he knew I have to push these guys. And as much as at the time they might have disliked him, called him an a-hole, when
Right.
they look at their jewelry and they see their 1 to 6 rings,
That's
they're
right.
like, yeah, I get called a
Yeah.
B and an H occasionally,
Right.
but
Right.
like,
Wait a minute. Where your mouth at now, ho?
no. I was like, he's saying this to grown men, like
Grown
grown men
men.
with
And
families and
look,
children.
and you know what? He did not care. He was indifferent to status because he had a goal in mind. And the point is, we go look at the incredible emotional investment, the existential angst that he both generated and drew from when he said, look, this is how I play. This is the only way I know how to play. And he says, okay, you might think of me as a tyrant. That's because you ain't won. You losers. He said, you out here looking at me. You look. What is
He's like, you ain't never won nothing.
Loser. You're a loser. You ain't won nothing. I got 6 rings, homie, and I got 3 in a row, and I would have had maybe 8 if I had not retired. So,
And what he said too is, he said, and this is true too, it said, I would never ask my teammates to do something that I
ain't
wouldn't
done.
do. And that, to me, that's why you can be that type of way, because you have to. And that's why I think him and Kobe were so effective, because it's like, he's not just barking out orders. I mean,
Right.
he is the greatest player in the world. And you saw even in the B-roll yesterday, when they were running up and down the court, he was first running up and down. I mean, when you
Listen
watch
here.
some of these
Yeah.
clips, he's the first one transitioning in defense. So
Right.
it's not just like he's barking out orders and he's taking days off. He's like,
Right.
no, if I'm going 1,000, y'all going 1,000.
I mean, what did he tell his trainer? He said he usually took summers off.
Yeah. He
doing
said,
that.
when do you want to come back? He
I'll
said,
see you
tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow.
The trainer was
dog,
like, damn.
Dog. He was like, damn, can I get a break in this piece? Because Jordan is that focused, that kind of laser focus.
They built him a gym when they shot Space Jam.
At the Space Jam. I mean, homeboy, and got, how genius is this? I'm going to bring in the talent, the young talent, so I can scope them. Okay, yes, I'm going to get my game up, but I'm going to scope them at the same time to see what I have to do. Look at the relentless intelligence. And this is another thing people tend to forget when it comes to athletics. They're high IQ.
Yes.
It takes a great degree of cerebral matter. The medulla oblongata got to be involved. The cerebellum cortex is involved. This ain't no stuff that just got lucky. These people like him or Kobe or LeBron are so focused on becoming the best. And, you know, they said about Kobe once that if he were not a study, and I told him, I asked him about this. I said, they did a study on him and said that if Kobe weren't a basketball player, he would be a serial assassin or something. I mean, it's just
probably.
like a serial
I mean,
murderer.
because you got those components. I mean, the components are there. The ingredients are there.
Look at Jordan. Jordan is punching Steve Kerr in the face. Although, wait a minute. I had forgotten. Steve Kerr hit him in the chest first. So Jordan was like, "Oh, you gonna hit me? Oh, that's how it is. Oh, then I'm gonna have to get back at you." Then apologizing, but in earning his respect. But let me tell you what. You will not stand in the way of our success, and all of them. Like, to your point, Steve Kerr, even Burrell. Even brother Burrell, Scotty.
Poor Scott. Poor Scott.
Said, hey, I got to. It might have been necessary for us.
Exactly. For the rest of your life, you are associated with greatness.
Come on, you be on that Scooby Doo. Oh. But look, when Jordan at the end, I think of episode 7, when he breaks down to cry over the serious investment in his way of winning. He said, if you don't want to do it, that's fine.
And he gets so choked up.
I mean, then he said, break. This dude is saying break because he is so emotionally motivated that he's crying tears. A grown man, how many 20 some odd, 30 some odd years later, still can feel the palpable tension of the demand of greatness and what it places on you, and the sacrifice you have to make to be great is pretty darn extraordinary.
It is. And I mean, from your own personal sacrifice, your family, because time away from your family, and also too, because when you are just that great, you know, anybody that reaches a certain icon status, you can't move a certain way anymore. You know, like I could still go to the grocery store and people aren't going to bother me, but it's like everywhere you go, you know, you can't be normal. You can't be like, I forgot an egg. Let me go to the store. There's no going to the store.
Look how
anymore.
That's right. He was locked up into that room. Look how it looked like almost like a tomb, didn't it? I mean, here he is, a mausoleum. He's sitting up here.
And that's why I think baseball, when he went to baseball and he was saying they treated me, and that's the thing that I think people, if you haven't played team sports or haven't been around those kind of environments, yes, you go to battle and you compete, but there is so much camaraderie and there's so much, you know, you spend basically most of your life with these people and you know the layers of them and you play games and you get to show all these different sides of yourself. So I think for him, going from the pressure, even though, yes, they were still stalking him did you see when all the people were looking at the baseball game, when all the people were looking just to get a glimpse? Like, I don't feel like we won't see, I don't believe we'll see something like that these days, just because of social media, because it was so exclusive back then to get a peek. But I'm like, I mean, people the little boy that jumped out of the car to go to Jordan's car, and he's like waiting in the street trying to get back in.
Right. Stopping him in his red Ferrari, whatever he had to do it. But you're so right. I mean, obviously, still the level of excitement that's generated by, you know, a star, you know, going to the store, a Beyonce, a Jay-Z, a Kobe Bryant, you know, when he was here, of course, a LeBron and Ashley Ross, when you're going to the grocery store and people are stopping you, you know, they know you're going to be great. But the point is that you have little leisure, you have little space to operate. And even then, before social media, when, as you said, the only glimpse that could be gotten, you couldn't look on Jordan's Instagram page. It would be fascinating for somebody to project onto Jordan what it would have been like to have
I'm back would have broke the internet.
And
they would like shut it down.
Right. And then wait a minute, TMZ coming in, it is reported that Michael Jordan beat his teammate Steve Kerr and hit him in the face.
No, TMZ would have the footage. Unfortunately, TMZ would actually have the footage. They would
have the footage of him going like slow motion, like and then Steve with the black eye. Yes, I've always wanted to
No, he'd be
experiment
in
with.
shades. He'd be in shades.
He said, I wanted to experiment since I played with so many black men to understand what it meant to be black, so I started with my eye.
But then it was funny when I had a group chat afterwards with a lot of like basketball people, and we were talking, and I said, even though Steve Kerr, he may have punched him first, and Michael punched him back. I said, Steve Kerr knew he wasn't trying to mess up that Bulls check. He was like, I just got to suffer and take this black eye. Like, I can't punch Michael back. You know, there's
right, for a variety of reasons.
There's levels.
That and the physical stamina and stature. Because wait a minute, if he's bullying Scott Burrell, and Scott Burrell looked like he was every inch a man, and like he might have whipped your behind on another case. Michael Jordan had that psychological ability to steal inside their brains and do
Yes.
it like Kaiser Soze, like an unusual suspects kind of thing, you know, and do what he did. But again, the outcome was so remarkable of 6 championships, and people rarely understand. This is the blood, sweat, and tears. I'm wearing a pair of Jordans that I first had on to go back to the Garden, and my feet are literally bleeding. I mean, what kind of sacrificial animal is this? So a Jordan and a Kobe possessing that kind of, you know, steely determination. And something else. So stop jamming Kobe up for being a quote bad teammate. What you think now? What y'all think?
That's
easy.
true.
That was easy what Kobe was doing with Dwight Howard, or how he was fighting some of this. Like, that ain't nothing compared to what Jordan was doing, right? I mean, we different time, different space, different era.
Exactly.
I get it. But at the same time, Kobe had that same kind of determination to, you know, want to get the best out of his fellows. And if I'm out here, y'all going to be out here. And because I can't win by myself. I need you. What did he say about Scott Burrell? I knew that I had to.
There was going to be a point where I would need him.
That's right. So I got to get him used to this now. And Steve Kerr, like he's arguing with Phil Jackson. Look, you know that he needs to be ready to friggin' go out there on that, you know, floor and do it. Michael was basically the co-coach.
Basically,
Phil was
kind of zen and just making sure, you know, like we're gonna do yoga twice a week. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was doing the triangle and doing his stuff, but
he was doing his thing.
For the most part, I mean, Michael was the general.
Michael was the general. He was the co-coach.
And I think for me, because like in my personal life, so my dad, great dad, he has a military background. So for me, I'm used to somebody kind of drilling you. And my dad, I mean, he'll be straight up with me. He's like, I wanted to be so tough on you to where when life hit you, you wouldn't be shocked. And I'm like, well, I'm not shocked anymore. It was tough, but I'm not shocked.
Right.
And I think when Jordan was saying that, it really is like going to war. He's like, I'm going to get you so ready for the battle. And you're going to think, and what I'm going to do to you is going to seem like nothing, because if I'm giving this to you, I don't think anybody else can reproduce this. So if you can take what I'm giving you, when you run into somebody that's not even given half of this much, you'll be ready to go.
And I mean, I'm the greatest player in the world. I mean, he didn't say it, but you know, I'm bringing that level and that height of athletic excellence to bear. If you can hang with me in practice, what you gonna do when Gary Payton comes up? Or what you gonna do when
that was wrong. When he just laughed at Gary. When he was laughing at Gary,
he just cracked up, and it was hysterical laughter. It was like, and you could tell it wasn't planned. It was like,
he was like, no. He like Gary was like dead serious. Like, no, I was a problem.
Yes,
I was a problem.
Michael was had I started earlier, I would have stopped him maybe, and the outcome, bruh. Wait a minute. If Michael Jordan is making up LeBrandon Smith, if he's making up that LeBrandon put his arms on his shoulder and said,
what do you think he's going to do the Defensive Player of the Year?
Wait a minute. He just made it up. He just straight lied. Like, nice game, Mike. He had to motivate himself. But to understand yourself so well, to understand this is what it takes to get me to the next level, and I will do everything I need to do in order to motivate myself, short of killing somebody.
Yeah. I think and even it's different, but kind of that same level. I remember hearing Beyonce talk one time of before she used to perform, she used to want to have people get her mad. Like she would want to be pissed before she performed because that would bring out the best. Now, obviously, as time went on, she probably, figured out different ways, but it's true. It's like, so you have to know, even like an athlete, there's a ritual, there's a process before you go into battle. Some people, I remember when because I did track in college. So, I mean, I would listen to my music, you pray, you have all these rituals and these things, and you come into this routine that, gets you ready for the battle because it's going to be a battle.
That's right. Look. And I was so hyped last night. I said, let me read some more. Let me write I'm working on book number 21 right now. Let me, no, 22, I think. I can't even keep it. 22. I said, let me take that for motivation, man, because that will inspire you. As you said, your ritual, and I ran track 224.40. See, that's before they, they had yards and not meters as y'all did. So you weren't even born there. But we were murking people 108-7. We would be killing them, right? But the motivation as an athlete to be prepared, to smash your competition, and to engage at the height of your ability, there's nothing like that feeling of overcoming because you've had to overcome so many internal obstacles, so many internal barriers that you confronted, that you generated yourself, that you were proud of having overcome. So imagine all of that, the inherent value and virtue of athletic contests and competition, and then join that to making up Michael Jordan making up haters.
Making up haters. I mean, straight up, just nah, that didn't happen.
Savage? No. You're just making them up, boy.
So I think that the thing that's kind of gotten sparked with this, documentary, and people love to talk about this, is the GOAT debate. And we kind of talked about it a little bit the other day. So for you, are you of the mindset that there is one true GOAT, or are you like there's different GOATs in different generations? Or
yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Even Michael himself said you can't really compare generations. Now that's easy to say when people say you're the man. See,
true.
But it's
a humble brag.
That's right. It's a studious humility because you'll go, oh no, I can't say I'm better than anybody, but everybody else is. So you can of course say, you know what, the dude, everybody else is saying Jordan is the man. I don't care what you say. So he can humbly say, I wouldn't compare myself because I took stuff from, which is true. He got stuff from Dr. J. He got stuff from people that we didn't see on TV. See, part of Jordan's advantage and Kobe's disadvantage is that everybody saw what Jordan had done. So when Kobe came along, it wasn't like a surprise to them. But when Jordan did it, it was a surprise because you didn't really see Connie Hawkins.
Yeah.
You didn't see David Thompson to that degree, Skywalker or Skywriter, right? But you saw a bit of the doctor, of course. But Jordan comes along right after Magic and Bird have revolutionized the televisual, communication of sport, so that, when they come in, they're playing it on tape delay. Now, Magic and Bird get it up to being live, and then Jordan takes it to the next level. He commodifies the sport as a commercial juggernaut across the world. And so when you do all that, Jordan is a unique figure. There's nobody like Michael Jordan, and nobody could ever duplicate what he did at the time he came along. Now, I would argue that in terms of sheer basketball skill, ball in hoop, ball on ground, pure shooter, more difficult shots. Even Phil Jackson had to say Kobe would take more difficult shots.
Yes.
It worked because Kobe was a soccer player coming up. But even Kobe on, was it part 5, said people come up to me and say, hey, man, you could beat Jordan in a one-on-one. He said, hey, stop. Because of him, I have the game I have. I learned what I learned from him. So
he was my foundation.
Right, this is my foundation. So even I, who, I made an argument in Slam magazine that when he retired, Kobe is the GOAT in terms of pure basketball skill, but the overall GOAT in terms of just dominance, in terms of dominating your opponents. He and Kobe were the same, but in terms of the time he came along, when he revolutionized and globalized the sport, I think that's something. So Jordan as a force can never be duplicated. I think Kobe as pure basketball skills, Steve Smith and others, and talk to KD, they would talk about his 1 and 1A or 1 and 1, that they're basically the same dude. And then LeBron in terms of athletic spectacle.
Yes.
LeBron, people have jammed LeBron up for not having, quote, that killer instinct. well, did you, and he would pass the ball. Oops, I guess we saw Jordan passing the ball at the end of the friggin' game. I guess it didn't start with LeBron. So all of these mythologies that have accreted around Michael Jordan, he passes the ball to somebody, gets it to Paxson or gets it to somebody else. Okay, Jordan understood it's a team sport as well. So I think that LeBron has been beat up over that, and LeBron's, I think, ability to pass first, think about the team first, is Magic Johnson on steroids. So when you think of those,
Yes,
to me, the holy trinity is Jordan, Kobe,
I
and
agree.
LeBron. And then when you throw in social conscience, LeBron beats him by a mile. I mean, it ain't even no
Yes.
comparison, right? There's no comparison between, Jordan on the bottom, then Kobe, then LeBron at the top. Because Kobe,
Well,
I
he was
remember once.
coming.
Yeah. And Kobe understood. Kobe's was more personal, one-on-one kind of stuff. So that a woman reached out to me on the internet. She knew that I was friends with Kobe. I was one of the few people he followed on Twitter and stuff. And she knew we were friends. And her brother had cancer and was fighting it. And Kobe was his favorite player. So I reached out to Kobe. I said, I don't really bother you with stuff, but this looks pretty real. And the woman was in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And all she wanted was Kobe to send me, and then I would send her a tape, as we say, a phone video, just saying, hey, happy birthday. Kobe goes to the studio and makes a frigging
Oh,
professional tape, a video recording, sends it to me, and I'm like, dude, like I'm stunned that he went to that length just to help that little boy. And then I think it was Jordan Edwards, one of the young men, unfortunately, who had died, and his brother saw him. I think it was another. I'm trying to think of the kid's name. His brother saw him get killed, and of course,
mm-hmm.
Kobe was his favorite player. And one thing led to another, and then I talked, to the family of one of their representatives called me, Sean King, and then said, hey, this is his favorite player. I called Kobe. Kobe is out of the country. He gets back in the country. He sends him a bunch of swag and then even calls him on the telephone to say, hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. And Kobe made, I think, one of his few mistakes when he said that after the Trayvon Martin situation, he understood Zimmerman because he himself, Kobe, thought he had been unfairly accused of something in Colorado. And so
Mm-hmm.
he initially identified with Zimmerman, but when he got put in check, because I sent him a note like, bruh, let me holler at you for a minute about what that might mean. And Jamel
Mm-hmm.
Hill and he had a famous kind of exchange. But on the low, I hit him. I said, bruh, this is a different story. Let me tell you why. And Kobe's a highly intelligent guy, and he also wasn't arrogant. He listened.
Yeah.
Jamel Hill's conversation with him, and I had a chance to talk to him about that. He changed his mind. He went down and did and spoke for an event for Trayvon Martin and joined with the family. So that's the kind of guy he was. So he was above Jordan in that way, but nobody
Mm-hmm.
compares to what LeBron is doing in terms of speaking out, of recognizing his blackness. The other day, despite the fact that Jason Whitlock, with his, ignorant and I think a malevolent dismissal of LeBron James trying to suggest that he's problematic because he said we can't even go outside without being targeted and hunted down. Yes, that is true, Mr. Whitlock. Had you paid attention to the repetitive nature of white supremacy and its vicious targeting of vulnerable black bodies, you would understand that what LeBron understands, that on any given day that he's not known as LeBron, he too could be subject to the same kind of thing. So at
Or
that level,
somebody close to him that they don't know is associated with LeBron.
that's right, could happen too. So in that sense, but let's be real. Looking at this series reminds you of just how extraordinary Jordan is when you put everything together.
Yes.
The iconic status, the gym shoe explodes as a commercial product that he helps the market explode. The globalization of basketball, the style. We haven't even talked about how wearing the hoop earring and
Yeah.
the baggy shorts for a guy who didn't love hip hop, who helped expose the hip hop element and brand to the game. So when you put all that together, Jordan is in a league by himself in terms of that kind of influence and power. But those three, Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe, and what pisses me off is when people jump from Jordan LeBron
LeBron, and
act
just
like
skip
Kobe
over
ain't.
Kobe.
I mean,
Oh,
bro,
I'm the same. I am
the,
the exact same.
come on. And then Michael Jordan's daughter, I don't know if you saw, I think we're on the Breakfast Club, and the two sons, Marcus and Jeffrey, and then I think Jasmine, the daughter, is on there, and they say, well, we let Marcus do all the talking and, defend his pops and so on. But she says, what I'm concerned about is people forget Kobe. If we
I
can have this
agree.
conversation. I mean, and so I'm a Kobe man at that level.
I,
But I love them all. I love Jordan. I love Kobe. I love LeBron.
And I think it's, I wrote something a while ago. I think the way that a person associates who the GOAT is, I think it also is kind of through the lens of what you value out of life, right? So if you're a
Mm,
person that values perfection, just, excellence to, unscathed, I think you're more of a Jordan person. You
right,
love, you can sit on the 6-0. That is, I
right.
mean,
That's right.
unmatched, untouched. Kobe is interesting because you have the beginning, coming straight out of high school,
Right,
and then you have the Shaq era, and then you
right.
have we kind of got to rebuild past this. Then you get
That's
two
right.
more. So if you're somebody who appreciates more so the journey, you might be somebody that's more on the Kobe camp. And
Right,
then LeBron, again, it's more of that kind of all-inclusive, all-encompassing. I'm more than an athlete. I am a strong athlete, but
right.
I have my hand in so many different elements. And I think LeBron, the thing that I've tried to do is with LeBron is, he is probably the greatest player of this current generation that is
Yeah.
playing right now.
Oh,
And I
no
don't
doubt.
want the generation to pass and then we're like, oh, we spend so much time critiquing and nitpicking and doing this that we don't truly appreciate the excellence while it's happening. Kind of
That's
similar to
right.
Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady's your guy,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no doubt.
kind of similar. And I think with LeBron, the fact that, again, in a day and age where LeBron has so much to lose, and I think most
Right.
people do, but you're seeing such even with the most recent situation that happened, unfortunately, with the young man, like you're seeing such a shift of before where it might have been, should we or do this? It's kind of like if you don't do this, you're in the outside looking in. It's
That's
kind
right.
of like, I think people now are, what side of history do you want to be on? But another interesting, I was
That's
talking to my
right. That's
brother,
right.
I was talking to my brother-in-law about this is, with Jordan, I believe it was the last episodes when he said, Republicans buy sneakers too. And that was very controversial in the time.
Right.
What's interesting to think about is if Michael Jordan had taken some of the stances that, say, a LeBron or somebody else would take in today's age, now it's a different time, but if
Right.
he had taken some of these stances, would he still be Michael Jordan? I don't think
Well,
people
no.
think about that aspect too. Not saying it's
Yeah.
good or bad, but I think it's something to think about.
Well, no. I think that's a great point, and I lived through that. And again, I'm on friendly terms with Jordan. I think he's an incredible human being and athlete. I think my disappointment with that, of course, is that was one of those gimmies. That wasn't you risking a whole bunch of political capital, because Jesse Helms is a white supremacist. Everybody, they would have given white people a bit like, yeah, we get that. I mean, that's you right there.
You're
Like,
like, this is very blatant. This is
yeah,
very
bro,
blatant.
yeah, bro. You ain't. I don't think
You're
Jordan
not
would have
stepping out
risked.
on a ledge here.
That's right. You ain't. It ain't like you going up against Bill
You're
Clinton.
not going off the Titanic on this
That's
one.
right. Now you ain't. And there's some space on Leonardo DiCaprio's raft for you. So the thing is, right? The thing is that it wouldn't have been a stretch because I was there in North Carolina at that time. I was a professor at Chapel Hill from '94 to '97. And the picture I sent you that you so
Yeah, yeah,
graciously
yeah.
put up with my son, that's at Chapel Hill. And when Jordan came back to, I think it was at Chapel Hill, or yeah, when he spoke somewhere. And so we went to see him because he's the GOAT. So we're going to check him out. And I'm taking my son, and I took my son to see Jordan and Kobe in the 1998 All-Star game. I had to save up and scrape mad loot. I had to borrow money from your trust fund before you were born and try to get some and save up some dough in '98. I wasn't making no dough, and well, a little bit. I had a little bit, but
Little coin.
I bought 2 tickets to the All-Star game. I was teaching at Columbia then in New York, and bought 2 tickets because I wanted my son to see then Michael Jordan and then the upcoming Kobe Bryant, and I wanted him to experience that for himself. So there was a beauty to Jordan, a power, and you can see it physically beautiful, magnetic, charismatic to no end. But I do think that he wouldn't have had to spend so much political capital because Harvey Gantt was a moderate in the sense of well-liked, loved black man who wasn't a revolutionary and a radical, but he was up against a white supremacist and a guy who unabashedly and unapologetically embraced a white superiority standpoint. And I think it wouldn't have cost Jordan on that issue. Now, other things he might have had a tougher time with, but I think that issue would have been easier for him. But you know what's interesting to note, though? That
What?
even though Michael Jordan, made that stance and they compared him negatively to Muhammad Ali, you saw the film with Ali sitting there with his son or something and he's smiling, with a smile on his face because, Jordan is coming over talking about, hey, little fighter and so on. So even the GOAT in that level, Muhammad Ali came to show Michael Jordan some love. So
Exactly.
despite whatever his political consternation might have been about Jordan's choice at that point, the clear sign is that he still was a beloved figure. And I think he would have still been a beloved figure had he taken a stand on that one because of the explicit and vulgar nature of the white supremacist ideology that Jesse Helms was putting forth. But you make a great point. Obviously, had he been explicitly political, it would have been like Ali, right? Ali was hated and abhorred. I'm not saying Jordan would have been hated, but it would have been far more controversial. Look at even what happens to LeBron. When he sat down and told Rachel Nichols, yeah, I believe some of the response to me burning my jersey and the like was racially motivated. Duh.
I mean, he's even had it at his own house, I believe, a couple of years ago, where somebody went and I believe they spray painted the N-word on his house.
So this man, to me, like when it comes to that issue, LeBron is the GOAT far and away and above anybody. And as you brilliantly pointed out, I think that's an excellent way of looking at it. If you're looking for perfection, then Jordan. If you're looking for the journey, and, it's Kobe. And think about this. Jordan didn't have to defer to another player on the level of Shaq that Kobe had to do. And the same coach that coached Jordan coaches Kobe, but goes to Kobe and says, I want you to suppress your game and ego to filter this game through Shaquille O'Neal. Jordan ain't really never had to face the fact that there's another
It wasn't like Jordan came back after. It wasn't like Jordan came back after the first retirement. Like, this is Scotty's team now, Jordan. You
right?
Jordan
Oh no, it was clear. I'm the alpha male. It's my team. I'm back. Daddy home. What up?
Yes.
So he never had to defer to a player like that in the way that Kobe did. And I think,
and the true rebuild and that's the thing too of when Shaq left, and they do have a couple years where it is a bit rocky, and they're having to get the right pieces. That's the thing. I mean, most of when Jordan got to winning, he had Scotty. Like it wasn't like so you're missing a key component. What did you think though? When Scottie Pippen, I didn't even know this, when he refused to go back into the game because they didn't, have the ball going to him. What did you think about that?
Well, as a sports person, pure and simple, it's just, come on, Doc. It's still the team, Doc. It's not your individual thing. But having said that, it's all holistically integrated, right? When feminists talk about intersectional analysis, that race, class, gender, sexual orientation all together converge to construct and constitute your consciousness in life. The thing is that him not getting paid, him not being rewarded for all the hard work he did, somehow vitiated and lessened his ultimate commitment at that level. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't have done that had he been the highest paid and so on and so forth, but we don't know. So I think all of that is together, even though I think it was poor sportsmanship and you're letting the team down. And it's not something that Michael Jordan could ever conceive. But then again, Michael Jordan could never conceive getting the ball right at the end. But he deliberately passed it to other people. So in one sense, Scotty's only asking you to do what Jordan did at some point, to deliver the ball to a teammate. And here's the thing, the clicker. The man hit the shot. So he was right.
But see, and that's the thing where I think it doesn't hurt his legacy as much, because if he misses that shot and then you didn't go in, you're getting scrutinized. But because you guys won,
a great point. Right.
That's another thing too. And and I always try, especially certain moments of people, I try, if something is like, you know, a habit over time or demonstrated behavior, then we have a pattern here. But if
That's right.
you have a moment where you really just jack up in a moment, I don't feel like
Right.
you should be held, you know, to
No,
that the rest of your
not
career and
at
your
all.
life.
Not at all. Especially given the fact that they screwed him. You know, when Jerry Reinsdorf says, I paid Michael Jordan $3 million. First of all, you ain't paying him no damn money. You're paying him $3 million, the greatest, arguably of all time, and you're giving this dude $3 million, so you know you made money off of him. So he continued to pay his salary. You should have, you ridiculous owner. But at the same time, you know that Scottie Pippen is chomping at the bit to make an argument about justice. I'm glad to see Michael back, but I'm trying to move on and get my paper. And it's not a
And
bad
even
thing.
with Scotty, and, you know, this is the thing, because people were like, oh, you know, Scotty, he signed a bad deal. I'm like, you're looking at a bad deal in the context of what we know about deals in 2020.
That's right.
Back then, there wasn't, you know, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't lawyers like that.
Come
There wasn't,
on.
you know, there wasn't, at that time, you are a young kid from Arkansas who has to
Poor.
take care you, and also too, it's not like you're coming from some big Division I, a Duke, you know, a Georgia. You're
Right.
not coming from that kind of, you're coming from NAIA. So
Get,
you're like, I got to secure the bag. And
get the
so
bag right now, secure it. And you're so great of you to say that, because he was poor and he was conscious of the fact that he had to support his mother and father, and he did, and his family. And so he signed that out of both, as you said, ignorance, but also desperation. So now it is incumbent upon the owner, in terms of moral justice. Legally, you had a strong stand, but morally, you were vulnerable because you knew you were making money that you could never imagine. In the same way, for
buku
instance,
bucks, not
buku
buku
bucks,
bucks from just not even tickets alone. You think about merchandising, how much
the
money,
whole
and that
thing.
to me, and that's why it's like
They were morally reprehensible,
I'm going to always side with the players. That's why, for me, I
no doubt.
advocate, why should there, I'm a big proponent, why should there be a cap? There's not a cap to how much these teams can make. There's not a
No.
cap of how, they're not going to say, oh, I made $2 billion. I'm good. I
That's
no
right. We're
more.
gonna share it with the
Like,
rest of the people. No, bro.
so why should I be, I'm not going to feel bad for you being a poor billionaire. I can't
Come
do it. It's
on.
not in my DNA.
Well,
So
look at your point. Look at during the beginning part of this pandemic, where millionaire ball players are paying the salaries of people who are employed by billionaires, and the billionaires weren't sticking up. And one team, I'm not gonna name them, was trying to like lower the salaries for working people, while one of their star players was going to give $500,000 to them. So yeah, these owners got to be billionaires because they were ruthless, and their capitalism probably was competitive to no end. But it is true. Why are we demonizing players when it is these ruthless owners who have been vicious? And Scottie Pippen should have been rewarded. And if Reinsdorf had half a moral conscience, he should have said, I got more money off this dude than I can ever imagine. Let me reward him, because
I've gotten his contract probably 10, 20 times over.
come on, and he knows, and he says he signed a bad contract. Well, then why are you punishing him? This is where, again, the unconscious level of white supremacy, not intention, I hate you as a black person. I don't mean that. I'm talking about the white privilege that blinds you to understanding your advantage of knowing contracts, of knowing manipulation, of knowing money, and then you not sharing that with this young person to then benefit them. And it wouldn't have made you poor. You were
It's not
making
hurting
more.
your pockets at the end of the
It
day.
ain't hurting your.
It's
And look at how when Michael Jordan signed with Nike, what did they think? If we can make $3 million, $126 million they made in that first year. So you're gonna spread the wealth, and you're gonna be a little bit more philanthropic and generous. And so I feel bad for Scotty. So I don't hold that against him. I mean, it was a poor decision. He shouldn't have made it. I get it. But in the long run and in the bigger scheme of things, that's still my man 50 grand.
No, and you know, I mean, they've kind of moved. They're getting into different stuff now. Ooh,
Right.
but then first couple episodes, Jerry Krause,
Woo!
he was. I was
Well,
like, Jerry,
that's Donald
there's
Trump.
no.
That's Donald Trump all over again. You
I was like, there's
privileged.
no love lost. There is no love lost.
He's ruining. Look, you're ruining your team because of your ego. We've seen petulance and narcissism in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue over here. I live in Washington D.C. I know this is me. This don't charge this to Miss Ashley Ross. She's a beautifully independent thinker. But this is Michael Eric Dyson, old Negro up in D.C. And I'm telling you, we're living with the consequences, the mortal, perilous consequences of white supremacy and ignorance and narcissism. Jerry Krause is such a narcissist. Oh, they won't play with me. I'm the big fat kid, and they don't like me, and they bully me. So I'm going to show them. They won't let me play. They won't give me a cigar. I'm going to ruin this team. Dude, how stupid do you have to be? And Reinsdorf, you were passing the buck, so to speak. Here you are allowing this dude to ruin your team. You could have said, look, Jordan coming back.
And actually slowing down your coin, to be honest, really, how much more, if you're just going to go from that, because we're going to look at it through the lens of greed, you could have stood to make so much more money.
So much more. Why
Had
you
you
dismantling your team, dude? Why you Bill Belichick in the game? Oops, I'm sorry. Why you Bill Belichick in the game?
I agree.
I'm winning. Until we stop winning, don't dismantle nothing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
And by the way, just to sneak this in, when this argument's about, well, Belichick is the greatest coach of all time and Grady the greatest quarterback. Let me tell you what, Brady is a much better quarterback than my man is a coach, and he's a great coach. But he ain't never stepped his butt on that field. He ain't never thrown no balls. As Richard Pryor said,
and he ain't never had no help year after year after year.
I mean, so Brady, doing what he's doing, and as an old man, it's like taking part 1, 2, and 3. I love it when old people trying to show young people what it is. Yeah, we can still get it in, and we can still do what we got to do. So, but the first two with Krause, it was ridiculous. And it wouldn't happen today. The internet would fry him, right? They would fry him. He would be out of a job. There's no way.
I mean, they do. If they'll do it with the owner, I mean, the owner of the Knicks, they do not let the owner of the Knicks live. So if they're doing it with the owners, they for sure are doing it with GMs.
Oh yeah. They would like Krause be looking for another job. They go good in jury or somebody from Toronto. They like, no, we got.
But this is why when people, and that's why for me, I really can appreciate somebody like a LeBron, because even Michael, I mean, I think most people know the story at this point I think Michael went to go talk to the owner, and he was like, Michael, thank you for what you said, but we're going to do what I want to do, basically. And this is Michael Jordan, right? So when you look at LeBron, the way of player mobility and really players understanding that I'm not just a cog in this system. I am the system. I'm the system. And and the way that LeBron, now, yes, Michael, maybe, I feel like Michael empowered himself and his teammates, and that is great. But I feel like as a whole, you can argue LeBron has empowered the league, free agency.
He changed the game. He changed the game. I mean, look, the big three changed the game. LeBron James signing short-term contracts. Let me sign it for 2 years with a third-year option, so that when the CBA is renegotiated and you up that dough, I get more money. LeBron James is a genius, a revolutionary. When you put all that together, when you put together how he changed literally the game, like Jordan changed it too in terms of, rules, like the same way Steph Curry did, right? The same way that, the kind of rap game didn't change more until recently with the introduction of mumble rap, whatever the heck that is. But it has changed the nature of it. LeBron changed the nature of basketball in a revolutionary factor. And when you put that together with a social conscience and then his sheer athletic dominance, we've never seen a figure like that do what he's done with the resources he has to empower everyday athletes.
He didn't just put, and this is the thing that I think is overlooked. He put his people on, but this is what just because you put some people on, now you can't put everybody on, because everybody doesn't have the mindset. They will, exactly. But the fact that, Rich Paul is arguably one of the best, if not the best agents in the game. Mav Carter building out the other side.
Maverick Carter, but check this out. Rich Paul is the only agent that got his players paid by March, 90% of their salary. So even if they have a problem with the CBA having that force majeure, Paul done got his players paid. Don't let the game don't hate the player, hate the game. And on top of that, look at what LeBron did. And I talk about this in my book, Jay-Z Made in America. I got a whole section on LeBron. LeBron hired the white guys to teach the black guys how to do it, then fired the white guys so the black guys could do it. Now, why is that important? I'm not talking about a racial thing here.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
talking
yes.
about the ingenuity. Usually it's black people showing white people how to do the job, then they get rid of the black people. LeBron turned the tables and said, you will not exploit us as a people. You will not step up in here. And as even the great Phil Jackson called it, the posse. They ain't no posse. These are intelligent young men who have been trained. So Rich Paul got trained by the great, and then he put Rich Paul on, and Rich Paul has moved forward with creativity and ingenuity. LeBron, in a very fundamental way, arguably is one of the most revolutionary figures in the history of basketball ever, period. Done. End of story. So that's why all three of them, when I look at the GOAT, I got to say Jordan, I got to say Kobe, I got to say LeBron. I mean, those
Same.
three right there in terms of what they did. And again, stop leaving Kobe out of the
Thank you. It's like it's not MJ, Braun. I'm like, you just negate like Kobe. And I think sometimes too, it also might be that because obviously Kobe, you know, there was TV and there was, you know, clips of that. But I think LeBron really started to align with the social media era. So then you had everyday highlight. So, and I think Kobe at that point was kind of on the downward part of his career. So you weren't seeing the Kobe highlights like how you were seeing a LeBron highlight.
Exactly. So they're trying to Kate Jackson him on Charlie's Angels. They, you know, they got Farrah Fawcett, which is, you know, Jordan. Then they got, you know, Jacqueline Smith, which is LeBron. And you're trying to Kate Jackson Kobe? No. I mean, stop. You can't be doing that. This is a trio of transformative figures, and you got to put them all on the daggum Mount Rushmore. But you're right in terms of your brilliant analysis of when Kobe comes as social media is just beginning to take off, but when it becomes a brilliant tool in the hands of players, LeBron James has revolutionized another place where he's revolutionized the game. So, you know,
and LeBron has created a legacy that is going to far outlive what he does on the basketball court. With his school, with the uninterrupted, with the production. That will, you know,
it's almost unimaginable how great at so many things and how powerful and pervasive his influence is, and the wide reach of his revolutionary activity is undeniable. So
and this is what I really respect about LeBron, kind of going back to what we said earlier, is as many things as LeBron has his hand in, LeBron clearly understands the thing that makes all this go is what I do on that court. Is what I do. And that's, to me, where I feel like people have to, you know, I do believe you have a lot of people, we have a lot of talents and abilities. I'm sure, you know, you might have a little rap in you, you know, but you know, probably God put you on this earth to, you know, educate and inform and kind of shift the way people think. So you lean into that and you put your talents into that. So it's like, it's okay to want to do other things, but you have to know what your core foundation thing is and where your light can shine the brightest.
That's why you do what you do. That's why you do what you do, and you're so great, and you're a rising superstar, and we appreciate that. And as you write, LeBron understands that, but the range of the gift, the nature of the talent, the broad diversity of skills at his disposal that he maximizes is astonishing. The most revolutionary figure in basketball, arguably, is that guy because of what he's done for others, what he's done for his own team, what he's done for people of color, what he's done for black folk, what he's done for all human beings across the board, regardless of color. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing. You know,
and people don't realize how hard it is to stay sane doing all that constantly being under attack and constantly you're doing all this stuff and it's always still not going to be good enough for somebody. That's why, like, for me, I always, it's probably an old saying, but it's like you're never as great as they say you are and you're never as bad as they say you are.
You got to remain even fight. Even
exactly.
Now we about to get pushed off here. You want to talk some more? Are we good, or what are we doing?
No, I think this was great. I love this. We definitely got to do this again. I thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. Thank you. It was an honor.
It was my honor. We got to do it again soon.
We will.
All right.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Y'all take good care now.